please read item number 3. This should be our last item for general government.
Item 3 is a discussion item, a voting machine purchase to last approximately 10 minutes.
Very good. We've asked our Administrator of Elections, Linda Phillips, to be with us today, Commissioners. So Linda Phillips should be on the line. Ms. Phillips, are you with us? We can see the screen. We just need Ms. Phillips.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Hey, good morning, Ms. Phillips. Would you please state your name and position for the record?
Certainly. Linda Phillips, I'm the Administrator of Elections.
Very good. Good to see you this morning. You have the floor.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm hard at work, like other units of government. Elections are also receiving COVID-19 funds. And so my presentation, my budget proposal to the state is due today, but I expect that we will receive about $850,000 in funding that's intended to cover some of the additional things that we'll have to spend. We're anticipating a huge increase in absentee by mail. So that means more postage, more workers, more ballots, more envelopes. So that's going to be a huge part of the budget increase. We're also looking at disposable pens, disposable styli, a wide variety of things. So that $850,000 should alleviate some of the county's financial burden for changing the way we do elections. I do share with you that the resolution that you all passed at your last meeting is really not a feasible approach for Shelby County. And one of the things that I don't know that I apparently have not made clear to you all is why election administrators generally prefer ballot marking devices because of the wide range of voter error. So if you could flip to the next slide. So anyway, I have always strongly believed that the one place where people should be absolutely equal is in the voting booth. Next slide. And people aren't perfect, though. Ballots marked by hand often contain mistakes, and these errors can be overvotes. A person voted for more than the number of candidates allowed. They can be stray marks. A voter writes or draws something on the ballot that invalidates or prevents the machine from reading it. Unclear marks. The voter doesn't fill in the oval, or they make marks that can't be deciphered. Blank ballots is a fairly common problem on hand-marked paper ballots. And undervotes. And undervotes is where a voter does not choose to vote in a race, and that's intentional, and that's okay. But an undervote can also be an error if the voter just didn't notice the race on the ballot. Next slide. So anyway, since it was time for us to dispose of the ballots from the May 2018 election, we pulled out the voter marked paper ballots. Each one of the 1,088 ballots was examined for ballot error. For the purposes of this study, we ignored undervotes. While those may be errors, they might also have been the voter's choice. And we sorted the ballots by precinct and then assigned a predominant zip code to each precinct. We use zip codes because people are generally more familiar with the location of zip codes than the location of precincts. We then analyzed whether ballot error was distributed across the county. Next slide. So the countywide voter error rate was 4.4%. Of those 1,088 ballots, 4.4 of them had fatal errors in one or more races. Next slide. So there were 5 precincts that had very little voter error, in fact, 0. And that's, 162 ballots. And see those zip codes where those ballots came from? Next slide, please. And these are the precincts with the most amount of voter error. So, from my standpoint, I think it's kind of unconscionable to advocate for a system that creates such widely disparate results across our county when we have the tools and we have the technology available to help people do a better job voting. Now, as some of the specifics in your recommendation, voting on ballot on demand at polling places is only used in a handful of counties across the United States. And it doesn't work very well. The last county that tried it was St. Louis County, Missouri, and get ballot-on-demand printers to work. I think that's completely unacceptable. And certainly, if we go to paper ballots, they really need to be pre-printed. We will take safety precautions, refusing exposed pens, but expecting our 1,400 of our friends and neighbors who are our poll workers to set up 700 printers between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. is not realistic.
Ms. Phillips, thank you so much for your presentation. Very grateful. Before I go to the questions in the queue, I'm going to ask you probably the easiest question of the day that you'll have is, my entire life I've gone to the either early voted or gone on election day to vote. And so I've never had the need to vote by mail. But with the coronavirus, I think to your point, we are going to see a lot of people that want to mail in their ballots. For example, for me, for someone who has never needed that or wanted that, I've always enjoyed going on election day or even early voted and going into the box there and selecting my candidates. For someone like me who may be quarantined right now or doesn't feel comfortable going to a location, how would I get a ballot to mail through the mail?
Well, you can go to shelbyvote.com, and under the Voters tab, there's a section called Absentee, and you can pull off the absentee application. It's not available yet because under Tennessee law, we can only accept those applications 90 days prior to the election. So on May the 8th, we're saying that we can accept them. That'll go up on our website. You need to pull the form down. It's a fillable PDF, print it, because it does take a real signature, digital signature, and then you can either mail it to us, you can fax it, or you can email it. The directions are on the form. And you check one reason, and you put the reason, why you would choose to vote absentee. In Tennessee, it does take a reason. If you're under age 60, if you're over age 60, you are automatically entitled to vote by mail. And you mail that to us. And then we will mail you a ballot. Ballots are not generally mailed until around 30 days prior to the election.
I'm just going to ask you some very generic questions. Assuming that a lot of people may not have voted through the mail before, once I fill that out and I get the ballot, as long as I don't send that ballot in, I can still choose to go to a precinct as long as I haven't mailed in that ballot. Is that true?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
Technically, under Tennessee law, once you have requested an absentee ballot, that's the only way you can vote.
Okay.
However, if you didn't get the ballot or you didn't fill it out, you can go to a polling place on election day or even early voting, but you have to vote provisionally. So I would only recommend asking for a mail-in ballot if you truly want to vote by mail, because the provisional process will take about 30 minutes of your time on election day.
My last question, and then I'm going to go to my colleagues. And again, I just want to thank you, Director Phillips, for your presentation today. I think it went very well. Let me do this. Let me go to the screen first, and then I'll come back. First up is Commissioner Van Turner. Commissioner Turner, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Administrator Phillips. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. My first question is, again, you said that there's a mail-in ballot option, and for those under 60, they would need a reason. And what is quarantine or COVID-19 currently a reason to request an absentee ballot if you are under age 60?
Yes, being quarantined would fall under the category of being hospital ill, physically disabled, and unable to vote in person.
Okay, what if you're not quarantined, but you don't want to catch the virus? Is there a category for an individual who wants to socially distance as a result of fear from catching COVID-19?
Not under current Tennessee law. However, I can say that we are taking precautions with our places. And our workers, our workers will have masks and gloves. We've ordered sneeze shields. We've ordered disposable pens, disposable styli, using the same machines we're currently using. So a voter really is not going to be at a great deal of risk. We're going to have to move some polling places where they are too small to be socially distanced, but they'll be in the same precinct or as nearby as we can find the larger building. So based upon the experience we saw in Wisconsin's primary in early April, they took the same kind of precautions we're planning to take, and we have not seen an increase in COVID-19 cases as a result of that.
So I know the Election Commission, Norris County government have the ability to go out and test theoretically every individual that says they have to be quarantined because they may, through a contact trace, have come in contact with someone that has the virus. So if a person simply checks if they're under 60 that they are quarantined because they, through contact tracing or otherwise, come in contact with someone who's tested positive, that appears that would suffice, because if a person says they're quarantined, that means they don't have the virus, but if they contact tracing is showing that they've come in contact with someone with the virus, I think the protocol still is to quarantine and don't go out.
Yeah, and we're not going, realistically, it's going to be a stretch to have enough staff to process the mail applications. We're not going to, check up and get a doctor's excuse. We're going to, if someone says they're ill, we're going to believe them, because they're signing the name to this form saying that everything that they have put on it is true.
Now, I want to flip that question. You say your workers are going to have masks and everything is going to be scrubbed down. Will all the workers be tested who are at the election polls and coming into contact with individuals who are coming in to vote? Will they be tested?
Yes, they will be. Well, I don't know that they will have blood tests, but there are screening questions that they will be asked. So, both for when they come in for training and when they come in to work on election morning, the officer will ask them questions.
Yeah, I understand that, but will they be tested? Because you can still have the virus and not show any type of symptoms, and you can still pass the virus on. So will the election workers during the early voting stage and on election day be tested for the virus?
I really don't have an answer for that right now. It would be desirable if we have the testing capacity in Shelby County. I'd really like to know that. But again, I think that's more of a question that we need to work out with the health department.
I think, Chairman, you raised your...
Just a quick mulligan, my friend, I think it's a good question. When you say testing, like on election day or when people are coming in, like I've been in and out of the emergency command center, so when I come in, I sign in, and they take my temperature. Is that what you're referring to, or do you want everyone tested 2 weeks out? Because, again, it's just a question to you, Commissioner Turner, because, of course, you won't have instant results of people working in there. So I think it's a very good question, and I think we deserve an answer from the health department. But are you referring to like a temperature check or the full-blown test? And how would that work? Like, because you could be tested on Friday and then arrive for the Monday vote, and over the weekend you could have gotten it. So right. I'm trying to understand. And again, I'm supportive of what you're proposing. I just want to understand how we ask the health department that.
Yeah, and I know we have a health department presentation on later, and I think that's a good question for Dr. Haushalter, because early voting takes place over a 2-week period. So theoretically, those same workers will be appearing at the polling precincts for 2 weeks. And the first week, they may not have it, but they may have done something over the weekend and gotten the virus. So the second week, they may have the virus. So I think that's something we do need to ask Director Haushalter when we come to her presentation. How do we address election day workers, especially not so much election day, that's easily controllable, but on early voting, what do we do over that 2-week span to ensure that people are safe? I know. Let me wrap up, Mr. Chairman. I know this is running a little long.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Hey, since this is very relevant, we have Ms. Phillips here. We have you. Dr. Househalter's on the line. Do you mind if we go ahead and let the health director address this voting question?
Yeah, what
Okay.
do you
Yeah, Dr. Househalter, you have the floor.
Okay, Elisa Householder, Director of the Shelby County Health Department. The thing to keep in mind about testing is that an individual may test negative one day and be positive another day. So typically testing is not recommended. What would be recommended is the screening at the time that people enter the polling site, and then all of the other preventive measures that were already identified. Wearing of masks by those who are working in the polling sites, but we would also encourage the public who's coming in to wear a facial covering, whether that's a mask or a cotton covering of some sort. Clearly the wearing of gloves and appropriate cleaning of all of the surfaces. To do testing might give a false sense of security that would not be accurate, given that people could become positive at a later time.
Okay. So, Dr. Householder, are you saying to screen the workers and the individual voters as they come into the precinct?
We want to screen the individual workers for temperatures as well as signs and symptoms. I don't know how easy it would be to try to screen all of the people coming in to vote. In an ideal world, you would want to do both, but if people are masked and their time there is limited and there is social distancing, then you could be comfortable with screening of employees primarily or volunteers. The ideal would be to do both if that could be worked out.
Okay.
We'll see what we can do. But definitely, yes, we will screen the employees.
And if we can be of assistance, feel free to reach out to me, and either myself or Dr. Randolph will work with you to try to provide whatever assistance you need to be able to, assure that people can safely vote.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you, Director Householder, Mr. Chairman. Madam Administrator Phillips, I'll start wrapping up. For the under 60 to do the mail-in ballots, that's something that I really just learned this morning. What steps will be taken to really educate the public on that? I didn't know why I'm not over 60, so I would not have known about over 60, but under 60, if you are quarantining and you can do a mail-in ballot, how are we going to get that out to the public who may still be fearful of COVID-19, but still want to vote? Are y'all going to do an aggressive PR campaign? And if so, are there dollars that you have allocated to do so prior to, I think you said we can start requesting those really on May 8th, which is really a couple of weeks away now.
We are doing some locally, but the Secretary of State's office will be doing, I believe their plan is to do a statewide mailing to households with registered voters to get that information out to them. There will also be public service announcements, social media campaigns. So we will do as much as we are able. And as I said, the Secretary of State's office is handling the bulk of that.
Okay, final two questions here. I think you indicated before, and I think you even had a request to discard the current diebold machines because they were outdated. And that's why you, I think, have spent the better part of this past year working out your process to get new voting equipment. So, and I know that there's a bid out, and you actually advocated for the BMDs, the ballot marking devices yourself, I believe. And you've indicated that the current voting equipment is outdated. So where are we now on that RFP process as far as discarding the current diebold machines, and where are we with the new voting equipment?
discussed in detail, and then they will go into a public meeting where they can't reveal any of the details, but they will make a public deliberation and a public vote. And then that goes to the purchasing department, who will begin the process of issuing the intent to award letter. So I'm hoping that's next week.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Turner, really good questions. Really good questions. This is all so new, and it's certainly going to require some things we've never faced before in an election. Commissioner Michael Whaley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Actually, my questions were already answered, so appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Whaley. Commissioner Edmund Ford, you have the floor.
All right, this is my first time up. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I just got one comment and one question. Ms. Phillips, good morning. Ms. Shelby, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Look, I have to say, I appreciate your due diligence on this item, and I believe that the integrity of our election is of paramount importance. I say that because when we've had our conversations, I appreciate your candor and your experience, even when we disagree. I will honestly say that I'll take your experience on these matters each time, and I say that because you got former county commissioners who want attention, you got these interest groups that want to come out, and you've got these perennial candidates who don't know how to get first place in their election. They want to be the experts now in our election. Chairman, I also say this, and we have people that want to have public comment who live in Florida and other states where they're worried about what we're doing in Shelby County. They live in Florida. They need to mind their own business. I just have one question. And I want to reiterate why I voted no on that resolution, because I think there's going to be talks that we have to have. And if we have to modify things accordingly, the integrity of our election should be of paramount importance. So I just want to get you on record one more time. Out of all documented voter fraud cases, what percent of those cases had a paper ballot system in place in those cities or states?
100% of voter fraud to date has been committed on paper.
That's all I need you to articulate. Chairman, that's all I have.
Ms. Phillips, to that last question that Commissioner Ford shared, do you mind sending me, and might as well send it to all the commissioners, do you mind sending me and the other commissioners just to back up for that? Again, I've tried to be as open-minded as I can about this entire process, but I think that speaks volumes. So if you don't mind emailing it, just any documentation or best practices as it relates to that, I would be very, very grateful.
I'd be happy to do that, although I've got to finish this grant because it's due by 5 o'clock today, so it's going to be tomorrow.
You do that, yes, please do the grant. You may have answered this for another commissioner, but let me just ask one more time. With the coronavirus funds that you receive, I think you are going to see a lot of absentee ballots for people that don't feel comfortable going out. So will any of that money, Ms. Phillips, be for a public relations campaign to let people know that absentee ballots are available for people like me who've never done that before, but I may choose to send in my ballot for the first time in my life if I don't want to go to a physical location where I have to be close to a lot of people. Is any of the coronavirus money so you can have maybe a little louder voice?
I have put a budget, line in budget for that. We'll see how much funding we get. So
Okay.
that would be a lower priority for me, since I know the Secretary of State is doing some of that, than say having additional staff to process absentees. And we're going to spend another $150,000 on postage, more than I had planned and budgeted. So
That makes a lot of sense.
we'll do the best we can. We'll do the best we can with the dollars we get. So.
Okay. Well, Commissioner Phillips, we're running out of time, but Commissioner Brooks has not been recognized. So I'm going to recognize Commissioner Brooks and then a very quick follow-up by Commissioner Turner, and then I'm going to adjourn this discussion. So Commissioner Willie Brooks, you have the floor, and then a brief closeout by Commissioner Van Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Ms. Phillips.
Good morning.
I had to step away from my computer, but I was looking at the 5 precinct with the most amount of voter error, and of course, 3128 falls in my district. Could you elaborate on the type of errors that was found?
Well, of the ballots that were in that, they would be, generally they would have been stray marks, they would have been overvotes, that would be, if it was a vote for one candidate, they selected 2 candidates, they made stray marks, they could have had a blank ballot, that's pretty common, so it's that sort of errors. And I call them fatal errors. What that does is it validates that vote in one or more races on that ballot.
Thank you.
What?
Thank you. And to that same point, when a person does the absentee ballot, that's on paper as well.
It is.
And so, if a person is sick and can't go to the actual ballot place to vote, and they have to vote on paper, has there been any type of study by you to look at absentee balloting that's also done on paper?
No, that actually would be illegal under Tennessee law. The ballots that come in have to remain sealed in their secrecy envelopes until they're counted by the absentee counting board on election day. But by the time the ballot is open, it is anonymous. We have no idea who has voted it. So if there's voter error on those ballots, then there's voter error.
Right. So, and to that point, so the person who's voting absentee by paper is already something that we're able to do. And just hopefully we'll get that message out to a wider audience that they can vote on paper by mail, and they can start doing that by May 8th.
Well, they can apply by May 8th. Our materials that we're sending out, we're making it very clear to everybody they shouldn't look for their ballot until about the first week in July, because there's this urban legend that you send it in and then we're going to mail you a ballot the next day. Well, ballots aren't ready yet, so we'll get a ballot, but it'll be later.
My final point here: didn't you at one time yourself advocate for ballot marking devices? Could you again explain to all the commissioners the core difference between the ballot marking device and the paper ballot, just so we are clear? Because I thought the ballot marking device involves paper as well.
Yes, both systems produce a record of how the voter voted. And both systems, it's really the only difference between the two systems is how the ballot is marked. In one case, a machine marks it and prevents the voter from overvoting, doesn't allow stray marks, or if the voter marks it by hand, but then it goes into exactly the same precinct level scanner. It's tabulated by exactly the same software, no matter whether it's voted marked by hand or whether it's marked by machine. It's exactly the same back-end system. So really, the only difference is that how the ballot gets marked.
Yes.
Ballot marking devices tend to remove voter error.
And you've advocated for the ballot marking device.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, under federal law, there will be a ballot marking device at every precinct and every early voting location because we do have to provide that for voters who have physical disabilities.
Right. Understood. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Turner, for all the good questions. Ms. Phillips, you've done a great job today. It's so good to see you. Thank you for your presentation today. Anything the Commission can do to support your efforts in this upcoming election, please let us know. If we can be a voice to the community about absentee ballots or anything with the upcoming election, please let us know because there's nothing more important than our ability ability to vote, and just hope everyone will participate in the upcoming election.
I hope so too. Thank you.
Thank you, and good luck on that grant request.
I'm going back to it right now. So.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Commissioners, I do not see any other business before general government. Thank you for your patience today, and thanks for your really great questions. We now go to committee number 6 with education with Chairman Michael Whaley.